Cowboys.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome back to Great Movie Rap Podcast. I'm your host, Gaston, with my co-host.
Jerryofdom.
That's him.
Cowboys.
And we'll be taking a look at
Cowboys.
Back to the Future Part 3.
Yeah, Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys. Would you like to take us off with your previewing thoughts?
Cowboys.
Good thought.
Yeah. This one's my favorite.
Oh, yeah?
But like the first one's the best one,
Mm.
but I enjoy the third one the most.
Hmm.
Other than a little bit of the ending, kind of a little funky. Other than that, I really enjoy this movie.
Oh, nice.
And I like westerns.
Yeah.
No, I haven't actually watched any actual westerns.
All right. Yeah, I always liked this one, too. It was unique and interesting. It's very different from Part 1 and 2. And the setting, Cowboys. I never thought it lived up to number 1, but I did think it was better than 2. So I was interested to see if my opinion would change or not, like when we did the Jurassic Park films. My opinion changed. So with that being said, let's get to our light spoilers plot sum up. The film continues immediately following Part 2. While stranded in 1955 during his time travel adventures, Marty McFly discovers that his friend Dr. Emmett Brown, trapped in 1885, was killed by Buford Mad Dog Tannen, Biff's great-grandfather. Marty travels to 1885 to rescue Doc and return once again to 1985. But matters are complicated when Doc falls in love with Clara Clayton.
Imagine falling in love.
Yes. So let's get into our character analysis, starting with, once again, Marty McFly, portrayed by Michael J. Fox, who also played Seamus McFly.
Seamus.
So you want to start with Marty? Again?
Marty, he's cool. He doesn't have a life preserver though, so he doesn't know how to swim now. He is Clint Eastwood secretly. And he's I like him more in this one than the second one.
Mm.
I enjoy the third one.
Yeah.
And Seamus. Looks like Samus.
Well, that's how it's spelled.
Yeah. Anyways, he's pretty cool. He helps him realize what Marty should do. Because he's on to his old grampy.
Yeah.
It's like, interesting.
Michael J. Fox's Irish accent is very well done. When he was voicing Seamus. And his arc is pretty interesting in this one. It follows directly from Part 2, really focusing on that character flaw that was introduced in Part 2, and it all comes full circle here. Marty continues to be a great leading character. He's one of cinema's most iconic heroes for a reason. So let's talk about Emmett Doc Brown, portrayed by Christopher Lloyd. So he's still Doc, and he's still incredible. He's so funny and clever, and the performance is still amazingly strong. My favorite all the time. The arc is interesting too because it continues on with the danger of time travel, but then the conclusion is different than what you might expect, but it's also deeper than I think most people realize. I see the ending of that arc get a lot of criticism, and I think that's just from people not really looking at what's being presented.
He's a sniper. Sniper cowboy. Never thought that was real until now. It's like the sniper monkey. Anyways, he's really good in this. It's blacksmith. So that man has some skills to his name.
Yeah.
And he made a time machine, so really he could pick up any skill he wanted.
Clearly.
Yeah. And he gets a woman.
Yeah.
Would have thought that.
Not him.
Not me.
So let's talk about said woman, Clara Clayton, portrayed by Mary Steenburgen. And you want to start with her? School teacher.
She's cool in this movie. She doesn't die, so time has changed. So another plot of we keep ruining the future, but really it was cooler this way, because then you get a valley called Eastwood. Anyways, she's good. She's good in this performance. Yeah, I enjoy her.
She is a completely new character with no counterparts from the other films, which is pretty much unlike every other character in this franchise. Um, and she is that love interest for Doc. And she fits in very nicely. There's no, like, it's not jarring. She doesn't have any counterparts because originally she died. Like, it's not something that takes you out of the movie of, well, why does she matter now? No, it makes sense. And there's no complaints about the performance, and I like that she kind of takes the Strickland role from part two, where she is a foil from just not understanding the real stakes going on, and just not looking at things fourth dimensionally, as is said many times in this film. And finally, because there's really not too many characters to talk about with this one, we're going to talk about Buford Mad Dog Tannen. Once again, portrayed by Thomas F. Wilson, who would also portray Biff Tannen, briefly.
Yes.
And, yeah. Wilson is just incredible as Buford. Buford is fun, and the costume design, he looks like an outlaw.
Oh, yeah.
He looks the part. And I've said this in every podcast, but he is a famous villain for a reason. And it is so well done. I think Buford might be my favorite of the Tannins. It's either him or Griff. And he's just a great villain.
No. Biff is still the best one just because he's the one that caused all these problems single-handedly. So, but I will say, costume design-wise, Mad Dog best. Go Wolf.
So let's move with lightning speed to the effects and cinematography. And the effects are about the same as part two. You can tell they were filmed right after each other. Not terrible, but seeming to be lacking compared to the original. The train at the end doesn't look very good.
And the train scene when he's on the hoverboard.
Well, I was going to talk about specific spoilers, but...
That doesn't specify anything. If you watch the second one, they know they have a hoverboard.
Anything else you want to say about effects?
Step It Up movie.
Just 1990, man.
It was better than the first one.
True.
How do you lose that? How do you do worse?
It's like less time was spent on it. It was the same thing with Jurassic Park that we noticed with Lost World. There's just less time spent on that part. They did more with CGI instead of just doubling down on practical like the original ones did. And the cinematography, it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
There's lots of iconic shots. One of my favorite is the framing of the conversation when Doc is talking off screen to Marty and we see him in the mirror. I really love how that shot is framed. I also love it towards the beginning when Doc's using a magnifying glass and it's making his mouth huge. That's just clever film making right there, because it's he's saying something just completely logical, but it makes it so funny when he's I love it.
I'd say for cinematography, I like the one with the different train scene with Clara. When she, and that's a good, with the way the wind hits and everything.
Yeah, true. I also really like in the cinematography the references to part two with Clint Eastwood, because Biff's watching one of his films. I think it's that one might be A Handful of Bullets. I'm not sure. I'm not big into Clint Eastwood films, but that might have been Handful of Bullets. But that's just the clever, the exact same framing and everything. I love it. The writing and score. The writing is a lot tighter than part two, but not as good as part one. The lines are better written here, and there is significantly more heart and fun than part two had. And it also works better as a standalone film than two does. Not perfectly, but better than two. Writing?
Yeah, I'd say this one has better writing than the second one, because it's more kept together. And not so big of an idea. And I think that just goes a lot better together, though.
The score is
good.
It's great. The theme is iconic, but there's also the new sounds with the Western style and the Western version of the theme as well. That really takes it above part two's score. And then there's also the Square Dance song that was written by ZZ Top, who portrayed the band playing it. Did you know that that was ZZ Top?
No.
Because that was their whole thing. The spinning instruments, that's their thing. So that little da 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 it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. This is another lightning fast one. Then there's another lightning fast one after, and then it's back to normal. So
Whoa!
just buckle up. Warning, warning, warning! Heavy spoilers. Here we go. In 1955, moments after witnessing Emmett Doc Brown disappear in his DeLorean, Marty McFly learns that Doc was sent back to 1885, which isn't shown in this film, but I feel like that's an important context point to include in the sum up. So, using information from Doc's 1885 letter, Marty and the 1955 Doc find and repair the DeLorean so Marty can return to 1985. I absolutely love this scene. 1955 Doc is my favorite Doc.
Yeah.
He is so much fun.
Yeah.
When he goes on to the disbelief, like immediately after seeing Marty, I love it. So, however, after finding it, Marty comes across a tombstone with Doc's name, with the inscription stating that Doc was shot by Biff Tannen's great-grandfather, Buford Mad Dog Tannen, 6 days after writing the letter. Love that opening. Despite the letter's warnings, Marty travels back to 1885 to save Doc, arriving amidst a cavalry pursuit of Native Americans, tearing the car's fuel line in the process.
Why did he go back the same day he sent the letter?
Why didn't he, you mean?
Why didn't he go back farther back?
Not sure.
Doc had been there for 8 months?
Yeah, don't know.
Anyways.
Maybe it's their nod to the paradox of if they stop him from writing the letter, he would never know about it.
Okay.
Maybe that would be it.
That might be it.
Chased by a bear. that bear.
Yogi Bear.
He is knocked out and found by his Irish-born great-great-grandparents Seamus and Maggie McFly, who allow him to stay for the night. Now, this is a problem I have with this film, and it's a pretty big problem.
Okay.
So these are the McFly's ancestors.
Yeah.
So why does Maggie look like Lorraine?
Who knows?
I mean, like, that's definitely not something they thought of when
No.
doing that. It should have been, like, anyone else.
Yeah.
Because, I see.
Interesting. Keeping it in the family.
Like, I that's my one big problem.
They're cousins.
Oh, boy. But it's a pretty big problem. It's like Biff being able to be near the McFlys at the end of part 1. It's a significant problem.
Yeah.
So there's that. If you can't figure out what we're talking about, protect your innocence. We'll move on. The next morning, under the alias Clint Eastwood, he arrives in Hill Valley but runs afoul of Buford and his gang. Buford tries hanging Marty, but Doc rescues him.
It's just spinning.
Did you know that Michael J. Fox almost died filming that stunt?
Yeah.
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 That was very real for him. Yeah. That's like, the stunt's gone wrong. Like, oof, that's pretty bad.
Why would you hang someone for a stunt?
Well, you can do a hanging safely. It's just the safety thing malfunctioned.
Oh.
I know. It's pretty scary. So
it's a genuine reaction.
yep. That's why his acting was so convincing. He almost died. Doc agrees to leave 1885 after learning his fate, but without gasoline, the broken fuel line, the DeLorean cannot reach its required 88 miles per hour, 142 kilometers an hour. Guess what I did today?
What?
I went 88 miles per hour. It was on the 402, and there was, keeping up with the flow. Flow was going 150. I didn't time travel, though, so I'm kind of sad. But I did finally
that's the
hit it.
for you.
Yeah, I know. But I did finally hit 88 miles per hour.
See, if any police are listening, Peter right here just admitted to speeding.
Yep.
So you should send him a ticket.
Yep, come get me. He thus proposes using a steam locomotive to push the DeLorean up to that speed. Them trying the different things is kind of cool too. Yeah. I like that scene.
Horses.
Horsepower. Horses. While inspecting a rail spur, Doc saves the town's new school teacher, Clara Clayton, from falling into the ravine. averting her death from the original timeline. They fall in love at first sight and form a close relationship. At a town festival for the courthouse, Buford tries shooting Doc, but Marty thwarts him. I love with this one the getting the picture taken with the clock for the clock tower. I love that.
I also like when they're like, "Oh, kid, do you know how to shoot?" And you're like,
yeah.
And they're like, "Oh,
where'd you learn to shoot like that?" 7-Eleven. It's a good scene. Buford then challenges Marty to a showdown in 2 days. An angry Marty accepts, believing that he and Doc would have left by then. Doc urges Marty not to react to provocation, letting slip that Marty has a life-changing accident in the future.
Oh, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, that's a well-acted scene, that one. Although he is reluctant to return to 1985, Doc eventually visits Clara to end their relationship and bid her goodbye. However, feeling insulted, she dismisses his story about being from the future. Despondent, he goes for a binge. And doesn't drink anything. In the morning, Buford arrives for Marty, who sees his alias appear in the photograph of the tombstone and refuses to duel. Doc passes out after downing just one shot, because he's a lightweight. But I love with this one when Mad Dog's calling him out, and there's that long dramatic pause that's broken with, "He's an asshole." I love that. Because it's like a good 5 seconds of silence, everyone waiting for his response. "He's an asshole." I love that. It's so funny. He is eventually revived, but is taken hostage by Buford's gang, forcing Marty into the duel. And a nice callback to part 2, watching the Clint Eastwood film with the metal plate as the bulletproof vest. He fools Buford into believing he's fatally shot, revealing the plate from the furnace, and Marty knocks him into a wagon of manure. Buford is promptly arrested for an earlier robbery, where they ask him any last words. "I hate manure." Now, there's a deleted scene. Did you see the deleted scenes for this one?
I don't know.
So, in a deleted scene, Mad Dog kills Marshall Strickland right before this scene.
Oh.
That's why he's not there to arrest him. Is on his way in to challenge Marty to the duel, Strickland stops him, and he shoots him in the back. In front of his son. Yeah. You can see why it was cut.
Yeah.
A little dark for the tone this film's going for.
Also would explain why Strickland doesn't like the tannins.
True.
You're like, you killed my furry grandfather.
On the train to San Francisco, Clara learns how heartbroken Doc actually is and runs back to town. She finds the model of the time machine at his shop. Realizing Doc was telling the truth, she heads back to intercept him, using a stolen locomotive. I love this scene. It's just a holdup. It's a science experiment.
And they just all peacefully walk off.
Yep.
It's not like anything bad.
Doc and Marty push the DeLorean along the spur line. Clara boards the locomotive and tries to reach the car, but she falls hanging by her dress. Marty in the DeLorean passes his hoverboard to Doc, and he uses it to save Clara and carry her to safety. Marty, alone, hits 88 miles per hour and vanishes as the locomotive falls off the unfinished bridge. I think that was a practical effect.
Yeah.
It definitely looked like it.
I think the train is exploding. There's one thing I'd like to mention about this movie. It's a lot shorter.
It's a pretty quick movie.
It feels... How long is the runtime?
I'm not exactly sure. Let's do a quick Google search.
Back to the future.
1 hour and 58 minutes.
Wow.
So it's about normal length. It just moves quick.
It feels like a really short movie.
It just moves pretty quick. It's got good pacing.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel too long. Arriving in 1985, Marty escapes from the powerless DeLorean just before an oncoming freight train destroys it. The DeLorean dies.
Boom!
Reuniting with Jennifer, yes, they actually remembered she exists. Marty declines a street race with Douglas J. Needles, thus avoiding the future accident Doc warned about, as we see in part 2.
You know what would have been nice is to bring up Needles a bit more.
Yeah, he's only in 2 scenes.
Yeah.
He should have been in the first one.
Yeah.
Just even in passing, just to tie him in better.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh no, I'm spinning.
did you know who played him?
Maybe.
So that's Flea. He, let me show you Flea. Also, he was in Kenobi, but this is him.
What's he in? He's in Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yeah, he's the founding member.
Oh, wow.
So he's Needles. He was also in Kenobi. Grand Inquisitor killed him.
And TV shows.
Kenobi, Back to the Future, Back to the Future. Apparently, he was in Inside Out, Wild Thornberries. Yeah, he's the one Grand Inquisitor killed, looking for Reva.
Oh, they're making a Baby Driver too.
Apparently.
Wow.
Jennifer opens the fax message she kept from 2015 and watches as the text regarding Marty's firing disappears.
Okay, I'd like to complain about this scene.
Sure.
She keeps talking about how it's like a dream or whatever.
And yes, she has that in her pocket.
And she has that in her pocket and goes, "Oh wow, the future's fixed." And it's like, you're just convinced that was just what?
I'll admit it was a little sloppy, but it's not like a crazy jump to me.
No, but it was like she got on a little too quick.
Yeah, it was a little sloppy. As Marty and Jennifer examine the DeLorean wreckage, a steam locomotive suddenly appears, operated by Doc, Clara, and their children, Jules and Vern. A reference to Jules Verne, Doc's favorite author. Doc gives Marty a photo of them standing next to the town clock in 1885. When Jennifer asks Doc about the blank fax, he says it means that their future has not yet been written and encourages them to make it a good one. Doc and his family bid farewell and fly off in the locomotive to an unknown time.
This has the fateful scene in the train scene with the kid needing to pee.
Yep.
You know what I noticed? In the version that we have, they cut it. You don't see the kid doing the waving over.
Mine has it.
Oh. We have the same one, so maybe I was blind.
Maybe you just didn't notice.
Maybe I was just really paying attention to the movie and didn't notice the background.
That's fair. That's one of my favorite scenes is when Doc is giving his final speech. And here's the thing. So a lot of people complain that Doc went from time travel, time machine must be destroyed to rebuilding it with the train. And they think that's a betrayal of his arc. But that's missing the point. The point is, he thought time travel brought nothing but trouble, and then it brought him love and the family he's always wanted. Like, while still dangerous, that's not a betrayal of his arc.
No.
It's a balance.
Yeah.
Favorite scene? For me, it's the 1955 opening. All of it.
Yeah.
I love that. You?
Thinking, because there's a few good scenes. You know, the train pulling up's pretty cool, but that's not like it. I would say my favorite scene is the final fight. Like Mad Dog and Clint Eastwood.
My least fave, I picked the dinner scene at the McFly farm just because that Leah Thompson. Yeah. You?
Least favorite. What did I bring up that I didn't like?
You complained about Jennifer figuring it out quickly.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Okay. Overall rating, you can see mine. 89%.
I'd give it a solid 85.
85. Great Scott. I love this trilogy. It's great. And I had a great time reviewing it. Next up for the Great Movie Rad podcast is Enchanted, which we're going to record later tonight after we actually watch the movie. So,
wow.
Yeah, so we're busy. For the Great Movie Rad podcast, I've been Gaston.
I've been Jerryofdom.
And we'll see you in the movies. Goodbye, everybody.
Among Us.